Today in Saints Film Room, we're going to break down the off the ball guys, the linebacker room and the defensive back room. What did they do in 2025? Who's coming back? Who's not? What do we do about the situation? And it all starts with the defensive backs, Alontae Taylor, and we have to answer questions. Is he coming back, or is the replacement on the roster, or do we find it in the draft or free agency? And then for the linebackers, Demario Davis, we're going to have to ask and answer those same three questions again. Hopefully, we can find the answers. Let's get to the questions. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. So, looking at Alontae Taylor's number last year for 2025, we see he leads the defensive backs in total tackles with 82, tackles for losses with 7, 2 sacks, and then 2 interceptions puts him tied for second. Taylor's versatility, being able to play both inside in the slot and outside, and being the star, as in the position that on Brandon Staley's defense. That versatility and the fact that he played the star and played so much on the inside lends to a lot of these numbers. It also reinforces the fact that right now is a free agent with an unclear status. Not really sure if they're planning on bringing him back, if he wants to be back, if one or both sides want him to test free agency and maybe he comes. I don't really know. But with him being a question mark, that's what opens up a lot of questions later on with the defensive backfield. Now, the remaining corners with significant playing time from last year, Kool-Aid McKinstry and Quincy Riley. McKinstry, second year, Riley, a rookie. I think both of them played exceptionally well on the outside, especially as the season progressed. Riley likely would have had numbers a lot closer to McKinstry's had he been placed in front of Isaac Yiadom quicker than they actually did. I think Terry Joseph's influence outside of Brandon Staley, who's a great defensive coordinator, but Terry Joseph's influence, especially on younger players like this, and getting them progressively better through the course of the season, kind of excites me that getting to work with them with a full offseason going into 2026, really putting a lot of emphasis on that outside thinking. Our outside may be very solid, very good, and hopefully better over the next couple of seasons just because they're both sitting on rookie deals right now. And a word of note about Terry Joseph, this all goes out the window if some NFL team decides to hire him to be their defensive coordinator. But if we retain Terry Joseph, feel really good about all the young defensive backs, but especially McKinstry and Riley, the way they progressed. Which brings us to another rookie from last year in Jonas Sanker. Now, Sanker mentioned this in the previous video when we were going over rookie grades. Primarily a box slot safety, corner slash hybrid in college. Did get some deep snaps. I think he was drafted primarily for that and possibly somewhere down the future moving into Brandon Staley's star role. Well, he may get that opportunity right now, depending on what happens with Taylor. The amazing thing about Sanker is he played exceptionally well, just suddenly thrust into the fire when Julian Blackmon went down with the season in injury. We'll talk about more about that in a minute. Keeping our DC, Staley and Joseph together with a whole entire offseason to work with yet another rookie, and I should say young player. Really excited about what he can do. And if we want him to stay at deep, we've got a whole offseason to work with him there. But the versatility it looks like he's going to bring now, being able to play deep as well as the inside stuff, it should be very exciting because once again, you have a really good player under a rookie deal and helping keep that defensive backfield solid. Veteran Justin Reed, pretty solid season in his own right, and had our one pick six on the year with his one interception, half a sack. The only other defensive back to have any part of a sack. But 72 total tackles, 2 for a loss. Very solid. He played primarily in the box, but did have some snaps in the deep look. That veteran presence replaced the role of the veteran guy, the steady guy back there. Blackmon was also supposed to handle that. He only played the first game, then suffered a season-ending shoulder injury. So moving on to Julian Blackmon, and there's another veteran that we signed last offseason from Indianapolis, who's a very good, one of the best safeties, in my opinion, in the NFL over the last few seasons. Only played one game, 7 total tackles in that game, no other stats show up on his line. But for his career, and in Indy, played for a couple of different head coaches, defensive coordinators. They used him in multiple areas and in multiple ways and multiple different defenses they were running over those years. But if you look at his career numbers, 307 total tackles, 1.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 4 fumble returns, 10 interceptions, and 1 defensive touchdown. Pretty solid numbers. Just have to get him healthy. And with them re-signing him, although it seems to look like a 1-year prove-it deal, I think they're believing in it. Here's another player that could become the star in Brandon Staley's defense if they choose not to bring him back as the deep safety and change Jonas Sanker's role. So very, very multiple situation with 2 of our safeties in Sanker and Blackmon, and that may actually have an effect on the Alontae Taylor decision. And then, of course, Jordan Howden, who did do fill-in work as some depth when some of the safeties were missing plays or missing time. But also there were several games, if you notice, there were packages, and this is where Taylor's versatility kind of came in, but may not be necessary if Riley and McKinstry keep on their arc of trending upward, was he would move to the outside because we had 3 safety packages where Howden would step in. A lot of time in run support, 19 tackles, 1 for a loss. And then he had the big defensive touchdown return against the Giants when Brian Brzee stripped the ball from Cam Scatterboo. So ability to make some plays suddenly started to kind of surface with Jordan Howden. Always been a solid tackler. So he got a chance to shine a little bit. I don't know what the plans are for him in the future in this defense, but he's going to definitely be in the camp in probably 2026, a really huge year for him to try to carve out more of an opportunity. And that could play into the decision on Taylor also, where they may be keeping an extra safety to try to handle part of that star role. A lot of questions center around what they're going to do with Taylor, but it's unarguably he's one of our biggest producers in 2025 from the defensive backfield. So whoever it is got to bring some production to the table. So the question is Alontae Taylor coming back? I don't know. I don't know what the situation is there. Was hoping when we re-signed Blackmon, especially since we got a pretty good kind of prove it team-friendly deal from him. Okay, maybe this is the door opening. We're bringing Taylor back, and we've got our whole DB backfield returning. So far, nothing. Waited about a week, nothing. Crickets. But all along, just my opinion, I have zero concrete evidence to prove this, but I suspect Alontae Taylor is going to test free agency come March. And I think it's definitely a good thing for him. And I think it may even in a good thing be a good thing for the Saints to know for sure exactly what his market is. Reason why I say this, if you look at the top free agents, about 8 of them, 6 of them are outside corners. And outside corners command the most money when you're talking about cornerbacks in general and in pretty much defensive backs in general also. 2 of them are slot corners, primarily slot corners. One of them is Roger McCreary, who was traded from Tennessee to the Rams and will be playing tonight in the championship game. And he's going to move on to free agency along with the second one, Alontae Taylor. Difference is when I looked up their snap counts, Roger McCreary gets about as close as you could be as an exclusive only slot. And I mean slot corner, not even counting other snaps in the box. But every remaining snap, position by snaps, not a lot anywhere. Whereas you look at Taylor's, that's a completely different story. Still primarily in the slot, but plenty in other areas in the secondary where he lines up, including defensive line, linebacker, in spots that doesn't even fall into the purview of a defensive back a lot of times. Brandon Staley's defense, right? So I think from Taylor's point of view, because I would agree with this 100% if it is, you got to go investigate whether you can get any part of outside corner money added to your slot corner value. You should ask in the NFL, because one thing in NFL free agencies, players that ask more times than not find one team willing to say, yeah, we'll agree to that. And they get paid. So from his point of view, I think that's the logical move. He has to test the market. But from the Saints' point of view, you need to know exactly if he can get any, or God forbid, all of outside corner money. I don't think we're paying that. I think even if we really wanted to, that we can't. We can't go that aggressive in a contract for him. So that leaves us with let's see what he's still our option A. Don't get me wrong, but let's see where that value falls while we're going to be looking for value in other players. And the reason why I mentioned McCreary specifically, maybe he pops back in the conversation. Maybe there's somewhere further down the free agent list that would be a better option, get a contract more in line with the Saints are able to pay and under the current salary conditions that they're trying to finally clear up going into 2027. So that uncertainty around him, I think, yeah, let's go see what it is and then go from there. Because part of it is you may have a replacement on the roster. We talked about Sanker and we talked about Blackmon. They could be on board, or even one of the outside corners where the whole time last year, Staley's thinking, Terry Joseph is thinking, oh man, we'll move them into the slot if we can't bring Taylor back. Really no way of knowing, but I think there's some likely candidates there that we know about, at least two of them, and possibly one or two that we don't. Now, let's talk for a second about who is left on the roster outside the ones we just covered. Isaac Adams, the only one with any defensive snaps whatsoever. Still have Rejjon Wright, Dallas Beanham, Beanie Bishop, Jaden Price, Elliot Davidson. I think they're all corners except believe Davidson is a safety. So they're floating around available, but I don't really think they're an option. Free agents as of right now with Taylor include Ugo Amadi, Michael Davis. Keep an eye on Terrell Burgess possibly being brought back. And if he is, may send some signals what they're thinking too. Burgess played under Staley with the Rams, played under Staley with the Chargers, played last year here, and last year was doing some of the work out of the star formation for him. So, not saying he is the option, but I think he's the fail safe and still floating around. And they may just bring him back to he's now going to go on the shelf with the other in case of emergency break glass players. More than likely, though, if Taylor isn't brought back, they're going to have to look in the draft. Good news, one player definitely we fit this role without a doubt. If we got our hands on him, problem solved, no more worries. Bad news, there's no way in hell he's making it to 8. Of course, I'm talking about Caleb Downs. He checks all the boxes you want and easily would be able to fit in that slot box, easily be able to handle the star, and he's a playmaking phenom. But because he's, I don't think you can argue the best defensive back in the draft, probably would have a hard argument saying not agreeing that he's the best defensive player in the draft, and could probably make an argument for he's the best overall player in the draft. So he's there at 8. It's a no-brainer. One of the biggest reasons why it would be a no-brainer is because all the other players we would be interested at 8 would all have to have been drafted in the first 7 spots for even that to be a possibility. Even so, that's a 0% chance of it happening. But the next two guys up just on the safety list, both of them right now looking around the high second, right around 42nd where we're picking. AJ Halsey from LSU played in Britt Baker's defense, played more snaps deep, but it's a very similar scheme than what the Saints are doing. So he got plenty of snaps moving around the snap chart on the inside. Same thing with Dylan Theineman from Oregon, just in the opposite. Most of his came on the inside, kind of rotating around there, but he still got a significant amount of snaps on the outside, or I'm sorry, in the deep. So that would either one of those, if they're looking and going, it magically can't, and it would take a lot of magic. Doesn't fall at 8. There's still 2 more guys floating around there around that 42nd pick we could use and probably do the same thing. 42nd, same thing with the corners. Always a handful of first round corners in every single draft, and they're always playing the outside. And to the best of my knowledge, nobody ever's ever drafted one going, oh, he's our starting slot corner this year, but never say never. But when you get to those second groups coming in the second round, you're looking at high end but not quite top end outside corners. But those versatile guys really start screaming up in there. The year we drafted Kool-Aid McKinstry, we got a high-end corner prospect in the second, while Philadelphia, pick or two in front of us, I don't remember how far, got Cooper DeJean, who was arguably the best versatile slot corner type player in the draft. Two good football players. Anything in there may contribute to how the Saints are trying to view this, possibly even find something in the third at number 73. To me, this is how I feel about Taylor. If the money's right for both sides, where both sides are happy and we have a contract that's going to not have to be reworked to give him more money because of market value and everything else that's going on, fine. Absolutely no problem with it. But I find that hard to believe because I think he is in a free agency period this year where he's kind of the guy that has some legitimate arguments where he can say, yeah, the market is trying to tell me my value is X, but my value I think is X plus whatever, and see how close he can get to whatever. Just the way it is, and I think that's probably the reason this is the most complicated. Reviewing the Saints linebackers by the 2025 numbers, this ain't going to take long because it's self-evident that the four linebackers we have returning, you pretty much have to add them all together to get to Davis's production, especially in tackles and tackles for loss. Now in sacks, Pete Werner discovered something new here. That's the first 2 sacks he's had in his career came this year, and Isaiah Stallbert in a very limited capacity, but as a pass rush specialist, managed to get 2 also to go with Demario's half. Coverage, nobody gets an interception, but I will say this. We all know how great Demario is in coverage, and that also aids him in those massive tackle stats because when a pass is completed, normally he's in the area to tackle somebody, even if it wasn't his coverage responsibility. Forced fumbles, fumble returns, pretty good all the way through. Ford's the only one, and really, he did not have very many defensive snaps at all, to be honest. He was really the only one not involved in a turnover. So overall, we kind of have 2 linebackers. We have Demario Davis, and then we have the other 4's combined stats. So the big question is here, if we're not going to re-sign Demario Davis, or he decides he doesn't want to come back and wants to retire, where in the heck are we going to find his replacement? So is Davis coming back? First of the questions we need to answer here, and I think this segment's going to be just about as fast as reviewing the numbers because I don't know. I hope so. I think we need to bring him back. Now he does carry about 12 million in dead money. We're going to have to do one of those little signing bonus prorate, probably throw another void year on the contract type thing. No big deal because all that is going to be cleared up by 2027. We're got 130 plus million under the cap right now. It's not as big as some of the other ones we'd have to do. But more importantly, you kind of look at, well, how are we going to replace him? Is it somebody on the roster? Maybe Stutsman somewhere down the road, but not in year 2. Am I willing to go, yeah, Stutsman's a replace and let him go reproduce what Mario does? I think it'd be unfair to ask him, quite honestly. Werner's had his chance. I like Pete Werner as the complement linebacker, but even so, I think we're getting to the point where we need to look to upgrade that spot, and that may be Stutzman's immediate future, much like Werner did when he showed up and going, hey, we're going to give you a couple of seasons. You master that and prove you can go to the other spot, the main spot. You're our guy. Hopefully he does that this year because then that brings up, well, where are we going to find Demario's replacement? So you look in free agency, Spotrac has his yearly valued about $8 million a year. So I think that's a doable range. And when you look at other linebackers, there's a lot of middle linebackers in free agency this year. You look at the range around Demario, I am seeing guys like Quincy Williams, not bad replacement at all. Devin Bush, Devin White going, no, we get to there. I'd much rather keep Demario for another year if we can. So I don't know how much of an improvement you're really going there, but if you get somebody that you can sign to a multi-year deal, and I mean, nobody's going to replace Demario, let me be clear, but bring that significant production and good play at that spot that we need, that we can rely on, that's probably the route you're going to have to go. Looking in the draft, there would be candidates in the draft, either as a more immediate replacement, but still, it's a unicorn like Cleveland found in the draft, I believe in the second round. Schweizinger showed up day one, ready to start, played really well. Looks like he's going to be the defensive rookie of the year, or definitely in the running for it. Most of the other linebackers drafted, I think, a Jihad Campbell, who played really, really well. But even then, it was kind of like in a Danny Stutsman role when everybody was healthy. He was getting snaps and he was working in towards the guy he was going to replace, but not yet full time. But it sounds like year two, he's good to go and he's ready. So even if that guy's there and you take him, what do you do in 2026? Who runs that ship? And if it's a 1-year free agent, then you damn sure just should bring Demario back if he wants to come back. So I know what we have to do there. I think especially team leadership overall, leadership on the defense. And I would really, really watching some of the film of Stutsman next to Demario, and I promise you, it seemed like at times Demario was teaching him on the field. I'm pretty sure of it. I'd like to see a little more of that because Warner was supposed to be the guy that replaced Demario from that spot and then move over after a couple of years. And I'm pretty sure everybody knows he's not the guy that's going to happen. Stutsman right now, much like Jihad Campbell, getting snaps behind the guy that he's going to replace, gets a solid year or two of that. He makes the move over. But until that happens, you still got to find a way to bridge it. I think Demario is the best version of that bridge. So to wrap it up, and not only this video, but let's look back at the defensive line video. 3 big free agents on the defensive side, one at each part of your defense. You got Cam Jordan on the line. You got Demario Davis with the off the ball guys at linebacker, and you have Alontae Taylor in your secondary. One of those has to come back. I really believe. I just don't think you can let all 3 walk out that door and not put your defense in some serious strain with the amount of production that's going to leave with them. Ideally, you'd like to bring 2 back. That's why in the Cam Jordan defensive line video at the time, and I still kind of am going, no offense to Cam, and it would break my heart to do it, to walk away from. But the caveat of that is Taylor's, it's got to be the reasonable deal. There's just no getting around that. And the chance that he could, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm not saying he should or shouldn't. I think he should pursue it, but should or shouldn't get that contract from an NFL team, whatever the case may be, doesn't really matter. I just don't think we're the ones that can do it. And if nobody else does it, good news to bring him back for us. But I think he's the top of the priority. And I do believe Demario is next because that room looks like it's got some serious potential in it. And again, I'm on the Stutsman's train on this, but at the same time, nothing in it that I would rely on to take over. The defensive line room, Granderson just pops to mind going, he can handle Jordan stuff and we'll work from there. Even in the defensive back room, there may be some guys, but in the linebacker room, no. If you bring in 2 back, I think Demario's got to be one of the 2 and Taylor before Jordan. So, let me know in the comments what you think. Or should we even bring all 3 of them back, which is theoretically possible, but that might be straining the limits of trying to get ourselves out and keep ourselves out of cap hell. But it would likely be doable. So give me your thoughts down there. And that kind of wraps up our year in review in 2025. Just say this real quick. I will not have a special teams related video on that because generally speaking, our teams weren't very special on special teams again in 2026. Let's just go ahead and put that as, yeah, that should probably be a priority for this offseason for that staff to figure out. So, and first time here, you like what you saw, like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to drop your comments down below. Till I see you next time, I'm Tim. Peace out and who dat.